welcome to a Monday night Zoom meeting. Those who've signed up early, you've had a special treat from the Siloam Children's Choir from Siloam School, led by Derek, who is a member of the BMF in Uganda. So tonight it's like an African night. We've got this wonderful start with the choir. And as I said, we do thank you, Derek, for putting that together and arranging that. Thank you so much. Give our greetings, special greetings to the children. Thank you. And our speaker tonight, he was originally from Africa, from Rwanda. He's now living in Oxford. But our speaker tonight is Japhary Kintenge. Japhary comes from Rwanda, as I say, and he was there when the terrible genocide took place in 1994. And I've been in Rwanda, I've been to the Genocide Museum, and I was in tears as I walked around that museum and saw what happened in that genocide in 1994. But Japhary was one of those who escaped all that was going on in Rwanda, and God in a wonderful way preserved him. And he's here tonight to tell his story of how God preserved and guided his life. So will you please welcome tonight Japhary Kintenge, now from Oxford. Thank you, Japhary. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Alan. And first of all, I'm really grateful. Can you all hear me?
We can, Japhary. We can hear you fine.
Oh, thank you. First of all, I really give glory to God for this opportunity and to be able to share my testimony. And to be honest, in a short words, what makes my testimony a testimony? It's what Jesus did for me. Otherwise, my testimony would have been just a story like any other or many other stories that we've heard. And what you're going to see, it's how we started and where I come from. And before I go any further, I want to take this opportunity to thank Alan and John, whom we've been in touch for so many times. And I visited you and I shared, had breakfast, and I even stay in Wigan, not once, but twice. As I like to say always, if someone invited you once, it's good, it's a compliment, but when they invite you for the second time, they probably want you to correct all the mistakes you made the first time. But when they invite you for the third time, it's a relationship. So I want to take this moment to tell Alan and John, thank you very much. I love you guys and all the other brothers that we met, like both John. I can see John and Mel as well. Thank you very much. It's good to see you again. And I saw John as well. I miss your jokes. And so anyway, I also want to thank, sorry?
I don't encourage him.
Yes, yes. So I also want to thank BMF for what you are doing in such a time like this. We are just coming from crossing and into the blessing. That's how I see it. Coming from the troubles and challenges that we had recently with COVID-19. And I am so grateful that we survived. And I believe that the future is bright. And it's good. I thank BMF for taking this opportunity, reaching out to the whole world through the technologies. And the way I see it is, although in lockdown churches as a building, they were closed, but the Church of God, through Christ, the body of Christ, was still alive and working. So BMF, thank you very much for reaching out to so many people and bringing people together with their testimonies. And those are the things that we really cherish. And your contribution, your word, your prayer is not going in vain. You reach out to so many people. There are so many seeds that have been sown. Even tonight, so many seeds are being sown. And before I start sharing my testimony, I pray that the peace of God will reign in our heart, that God will give us understanding. And I humble myself before God. As I decrease, may God increase in me, that he gives me wisdom, understanding, and knowledge as I'm speaking, that people may hear what God is saying, that none of me will come to hinder the Spirit of God, that as I'm sharing the testimony that God has given me, that his name may be glorified from Uganda, from Africa to England and Asia, all over the world. I believe this is going to be on Facebook, and everyone who's going to see it, even after that, that they may see and hear from God in the name of Jesus. So there are three things that I want to share as a foundation of really the main reason for the testimony. I come from a Muslim background, and for that reason, and some people, and they ask themselves, if you never come across a Muslim and you don't know how they live or what they believe, sometimes people think and they say, and many have said, that Christian and a Muslim, they pray to the same God. That is not true. And there are so many things that can prove that. But just briefly, I'm going to say only three things for the sake of my testimony. With the Islam, you have to do right to be right. So it's all about works and to do good deeds. That's how they will be measured to be able to go to what they call paradise. But the same way for Christian, Jesus has died on a cross, so we are right. Therefore, we behave right and we do right because we are already right. We are the righteousness of God. So that's a huge difference already. We are right, therefore we act right because we are the righteousness of God. As for the Muslim, they have to do right to become right. A second thing is a prayer. For them is a ritual, but for us, we pray to a God who is alive, who listens. So for us, our prayer is relational. You can pray and expect to hear from God, and you know for sure, without any shadow of doubt, that the God you are praying to, he hears. As for the Muslim, he says in the 5th book of the Quran that Allah remains behind the veil, that you cannot see him, you don't approach, or he does not reveal himself to people, to the followers. So that is a big difference. But one of the main important things, I left it to be third on purpose, is salvation. We have the assurance that we've been saved through the cross of Calvary, when Jesus gave his life and he was crucified, he died. On the third day, he rose and he's alive again. And he has given us, as the 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21 says, that he was made sin, he who knew no sin, so that we can be the righteousness of God. So that is a very, very important. So as I'm sharing my testimony, I just wanted everyone to be on the same, to remember that. I know you all know that I'm preaching to the choir, but we may have someone who is wondering and say, what is this? So as you may, those are the three things that I wanted to share first. So as you may all have heard or read, my name is Japhary Kintenge, and I grew up in a small country called Rwanda, a beautiful country. And I come from a family of 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. And as I was growing up, at the age of 14 turning 15, I got involved into argument with my dad to the point where he told me, "You are not my son." I thought he was joking, and I asked my mom. Instead of giving me an answer, she was in tears. And when you are in that kind of situation, you always run to the person you know they will receive you, you feel comfortable. So I went to see my grandma on my mom's side, and I asked her, what is this thing that I'm hearing? That my dad is not my father. Is that true? So she looked on the side, and then she stretched her arm, her shaking arm, and she touched my shoulders, and she told me, "I've seen you growing, and I know you are very strong. Go and live your life as if you are alone, and I know you're going to be fine. You will make it." And I don't think I need a PhD to understand what she meant by that. And it's not a rocket science. She was saying that is true, basically, what I was asking. So from there, I became a bit more stubborn and rebellious, and because I knew it was not fair. So I always like to question and ask why this and why that, and always questioning. So my life and the grow up was not so good. Although my dad told me that he was not my father, I was not surprised. He gave me a reason as to why I was treated the way I was being treated in the house. Because to cut the long story short, I was always pushed on the side, and quite often, if we have visitors, I will be the last one to eat. I will be the last one to send to do things and that, and you name it, all kind of things. And I was the only one in the family who really wanted to stay in school and study. In fact, I'm the only one out of the 6 who managed to graduate and went to university. It was very tough. So, and at some point, I became a homeless for 3 days. And so I came to learn how to create friends outside my family, because it has become the same thing. And my dad had money. He was well positioned. And in the community where I grew up in, when you have money, people, they almost worship you. They always say yes to what you say. So everyone was just saying and agreeing with him, and I was the one who was wrong. So anyway, I rely on a few friends, and God always sent people in my life. And like even carry on and finishing my secondary school, it was friend who helped me to pay school fees and all of that. And I was kicked in the house so many times, and my mom would call me and say, "Come back," and but I was in and out of the house. So basically, that how I grew up, and that was my family. As far as I can remember, going back more than 5 generations, they were all Muslim. So Islam was the only thing that I knew how, and Allah was the only thing I know as God. So during Ramadan, or when it was time for prayer, they were very strict. If you haven't done your ritual, your prayer, you wouldn't eat, you wouldn't get some of the privileges, although it was already hard for me anyway. So that's how it was in my family. And shortly after that, I was told that I'm not one of his sons, and genocide kicked in. So I was, when he started from the beginning, I had gone to visit my mom because I was living outside the home. I had just started a job. And then the genocide started. And because as you may all remember, it was an aeroplane that was carrying the president. They shot it down. So the genocide started then. So I could not move because there were sounds of bullets and grenades, you name it, it was a war. I could not move and go back to my little flat. So I had to stay home, and the killing started that night. So I had to stay home and with the family. And then 3 days later, we were having a conversation, and I suggested that it's not good for us to stay together, and it would be better if we start separating as a family. If those people come, they will kill the whole family. And I was just giving idea. And as I said, as I was growing up, I like to ask and question and suggest, and just arranging things, basically. And knowing that, hearing they are killing outside, and bullets going on, and killing and cries and screaming, I thought my dad was going to be very sensitive about the situation and not being harsh on me. So anyway, he said, "You are really annoying," because I can't remember how the conversation turned into argument. So he told me, "Actually, you just reminded me that you don't belong here, so get out of my house." My mom was pleading for me, and she was asking my dad, "Why are you kicking him out of the house? And you know he's not going to survive. Things are very hard out there." So he said, "I really don't care if he survives or not. I just want him out of the house. This is my house, and this home is better without him." So as stubborn as I was, I started making steps going toward the gate, because it was a very big house. I didn't know where I was going, and I was just being kicked in a house anyway. So after making like 10 steps, we had a big noise at the gate. Someone was knocking. It was not a normal knock. he was really hitting the gate and say, you need to open this gate right now. And if you don't, you are in trouble. It was around morning, around 11. So there was no one. Everyone became very fearful and scared. And the guy who was knocking on the door, and he said, I can see you, so you better come and open, otherwise I'm going to open this gate with a grenade. So I went to open the gate. I was hesitating. Everyone ran in the house. I could see how the curtains were moving inside, everyone trying to hide, but opening the curtain just to look and check what's going on. As I opened the gate, it was this guy, an army guy. He had this long gun. I couldn't see what it was. And he took it from his bottom and he hit me in the chest here. I fell down and I could not catch my breath properly. As I was down, he turned it and he pointed in my face and he cocked it as if he was going to release the bullet. I believe he was. Then he looked me in the face and he called me by my name. And then I said, what is going on? When I looked at him, in my mind, I was dead. No one has ever pointed a gun in my face like that. So I was dead, really. And so as I'm looking at him, I remember his name. His name was Beaumarchais. He was a young man of whom I went to school with in boarding school. Because I used to do sports a lot, I was very popular. And I used to teach him how to dance, actually. So he asked me, what are you doing here? And then I said, I would like to ask you the same question. And he gave me his hand and he pulled me up and I stood up. I was still in pain. And we started talking and I told him, this is my home. This is where I live. And in my mind, voices telling me, who are you kidding? Really? Is this where you live? You are being kicked out. So I said, he doesn't need to know. And then he said, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know that this is your home. And I said, I totally understand. So what's going on? He said, no, we are just, there is a family we are looking for. And I knew that he was lying. And he knew who I was. And he said, do you need anything? I said, well, we could use some food. So he was a sergeant. So he had some people looking after him. And he sent them to go in a truck that they were in. He asked them to bring some food, and they brought rice, they brought cooking oil, they brought sugar and flour. So they really dropped everything there, and he said, is there anything I can do for you? I told him, actually, I was about to get out. I needed to go to the embassies. So in Kigali, most of the embassies, they were always like in the same area. So I just mentioned, I said that I want to go to the Tanzanian embassy. So he said, oh, really? So I told him where it was. And then he said, oh, okay, for the moment, I can't take you. But rest assured that I will come back this evening around 6. And I will make sure that I take you there, because I can't take you right now because I'll be in trouble. As soon as he left, I knew he wasn't telling me the truth. Actually, he's going to send other people, because I knew him from our boarding school, and he knew who I was. And I knew that since they are killing people, And I knew that they were going to come back. So I decided not to stay in that house for that day. So I looked back. I could see my mom in the window. She was in tears. I looked at her, and here I am. I was being kicked in the house. They didn't have enough food. And it happened that this soldier is someone whom we knew each other, and he left food for my family, which I did not even get to eat anyhow. So I just walked out, and I was in tears as well. So I walked out for the first time after like 4 days. I went out. You could see bodies on the street and all of that. I said, no, I cannot go that far. I went, and I was so overwhelmed. There was a broken car that was just across the street, and there was an avocado tree. So I went there, and they just sat on that car in a position where that no one would see me. I was in tears and not knowing what to do. So I stayed there for the whole night. So my testimony, I always call it that I was dead 7 times. So the first time is when there was, when this soldier pointed a gun on my face. In my mind, I was completely dead. So I have to speed up. I can't tell you all the 7. I will tell you only probably 2, no 3. So this one, when I was on that car, it started becoming dark. Now it's in late afternoon. It was so quiet. The atmosphere was really, you could smell fear, and hearing the sound of a gun and grenade and smoke on the top of the mountain and things like that. It was really dreadful. It was a nightmare. So I stayed there. I was so hungry. I was not far from my home. So it became so dark, and I could see soldiers going up and down and passing in their truck and singing, and people crying and down the street. So I decided to stay there, and it started raining. So I went under this broken car. But the water was coming from the mountain, just going through under the car, going through me. But my challenge is the fear of being killed was higher than the cold and the water that was going through my feet and my clothes. So I stayed put under the car. And then because of all the grenades that were going on, and I had something that fell on the bonnet of this broken car, and then it dropped on the bonnet, and then fell down not far from my head. And I said, this must be a grenade. I am dead. There is my second time. I knew I was dead. I said, in 6 seconds, it's going to go off. That's it. I waited and waited. I couldn't even move. I became numb. I couldn't fall asleep. It was so uncomfortable. So I waited until suddenly that was the longest night of my life. So suddenly when it was in the morning, I could not move still. So I decided, I said, this must not be a grenade. I don't know what happened, but I have to move very, very slowly in case I trigger it. So moving to check what it was, unfortunately, well, fortunately, it was just an avocado. So I laughed, then I couldn't do anything. So now I'm jumping. Finally, I started walking. I managed to get from the neighbors sugar in a bag. So every barrier I go through, I was just telling them I have to take this sugar to my grandma. And I walked till I managed to get to the embassy. After a few days, my big brother came, and then from there, moving forward, all the people in Tanzanian embassy, by the way, I had to jump the gate to get inside because they wouldn't let you in. So I forced myself in. And then in the end, so as we were on our way going to another neighbor country. Alan has been there, it's called Burundi. So when we arrive in Gitarama, it's not far from Kigali. It's like a 1-hour drive. So they stopped the car that I was in, and I was dressed like a proper Arab Muslim, and I was not speaking in Kinyarwanda. I was just speaking Swahili. That was another privilege that I had. So I was denying basically that I was Rwandan. I was saying that I was Tanzanian. They told me I was lying. So they beat me up, and they asked me they stripped me naked, and they asked me to dig my own grave. So I asked them to put on a trouser just for dignity. They said, okay, you can do that. But I started digging my own grave. I remember going down, they pushed me to say, just go down and see if it's the right size, if your grave is full, is complete. So I went down like 6 times to check if it was right. Finally, when it was right, suddenly it started raining so heavily. And in Africa, in that time, they didn't have a tumble dryer to dry their clothes. You wash your clothes with the hands, and you have to pray for the sun so you can put them out on the lines to wait for them to dry. When it started raining heavily, these guys, they say, oh, I left my clothes out, I have to go and put them in. And the other one ran away because it was really raining so heavily. The strange thing is, I can't remember myself being wet, but I remember that it was raining so heavily. It was a miracle, but it's only later that I came to understand what was going on. So when they left me there, I wasn't going to wait for an invitation for me to make my way and run away from them. So I ran away and I left my clothes there, and I had only the trouser, which made me look like a local there. And then I switched, I started talking local Kinyarwanda. So I walked, but near the bypass, but not on the bypass. Near there, so I can be able to see cars that I would ask for a lift, but not too exposed as well, just walking on the side in the field. So I kept on walking, and finally I got someone, and I stopped so many cars, but only one came to stop. And it was someone who knew me. His name was Ali. And they gave me a lift, and I ended up in Burundi. Now I'm going to jump. Finally, after genocide, I had a job in a Red Cross, and I met a good friend. I met someone who became a good friend to me, and he helped me to leave Rwanda because I really wanted to leave. I didn't really have a good relationship with the family. I just wanted a fresh start. And I wasn't really happy to be in Rwanda. So he helped me, and I came finally to the UK. And I went to learn English, and Shortly after, I met this beautiful girl, my wife, called Marie, and we got married. And she was Catholic. So I promised her that I will never force her to be a Muslim, because Quran allow Muslim men to marry non-Muslim women as long as they believe that there is a God. But Muslim women, they are not allowed to marry non-Muslim men. And some of you may say, oh, that's not right. It's not fair. Yeah, you are right. It's not. Because the plan is for Islam teaches that a man has to be a man and has to dominate. And that's the plan. They were expecting me to dominate my wife and turn her into a Muslim. So my mom was not happy to start with that I married a non-Muslim girl. But because I was living in England, I really didn't care that much. After all, they were not there as my family values were not really, it was not the kind of a family that I would give as an example, considering how I lived and how I was treated. I was hurt, and I didn't know who my dad was till now. I don't. So in the meantime, while I was still in Rwanda, I had gone to see all these Muslim leaders like a sheikh and asked them if they can help me to know or give me at least something that would give me hope. As someone who grew up in a family, it's not my fault that the man I knew to be my dad is not my fault at all. So I could not get an answer. So while I was here, me and my wife coming back to the UK, we had two beautiful boys, and they were healthy and strong, and we gave them a Muslim names. And I studied and I finished. I had a very good job, and I started really thinking about Rwanda again. And I wanted to go and do business in Rwanda. So I went there. I had someone who we were going to partner and build properties there. We went there, we started the business and everything. On my way back here, I was coming to work for 1 more year, and then I will go back for good. When I came here, the recession started, and my job lost me. I still wanted to work, but so I didn't have a job. I became depressed. In the meantime, just before that, my wife had given her life to Christ, and she was going to church. And she was really praying for me with her church friends and members. So when I became depressed, no job, I heard the news that my uncle, who was a sheikh, who was living in High Wycombe, I heard that he had become a Christian. So I was so disappointed. I called him and I asked, if you really needed money, couldn't you ask that we have a big family back home? They could have put money together and give you. Because I was assuming that they paid him because he was a sheikh to become like a trophy that a sheikh turned to Christianity. So he laughed at me, and he told me something that was very simple, that I took for granted, but yet very, very, very powerful. Now, everything that I've been saying, it's just a story. And I know you came to listen to my testimony, but my testimony is not a testimony without the second part, the part that I'm going to share with you now. So I went to see my uncle. I told him, why did you do that? And he told me, I know you came here expecting me to open Quran and tell you what it says, and probably the Bible as well. But I'm going to tell you something very, very powerful. But it may be simple to you, but it's very powerful. So he told me, just go home, pray like you mean it, just say these words. God, I know you are there. Reveal yourself to me and give me strength to follow you. Coming from a Muslim background, I know how to do the rituals and washing my hand, my face and feet and everything before I go before God. I have to cleanse myself and feel more holy, and they go and do some exercise, going down and standing up and repeat same words. I said, and now you are telling me just to say just that, God, I know you are there, reveal yourself and give me strength to follow you. What a lousy prayer. I said, that doesn't make sense. And he said, I'm begging you, please, when you get home, or you can do it here, just say it. You don't need to do anything. You can do it outside, in a bathroom, whatever. Just say it, like, make sure you mean it really from your heart. And as you may guess, I didn't do it. First day, second day, third day, he called me. He said, I'm calling to check if you say the prayer that I asked you to do. I said, yeah, I did it and nothing happened. He said, I know you didn't do it. In the end, I said, yeah, you know me well. I didn't do it. I didn't see the need. He said, listen, I know it's very simple, but please, just say it. Later that evening, I said, you know what? Let me just say it. What worse could happen? And I made sure that I mean it. I actually said it like twice or three times, just to make sure that I really, really, really mean it. I say, God, I know you are there. Reveal yourself to me and give me strength to follow you. Within 3 days, I had a dream. In my dream, I was in a graveyard. I was laying down on grass, and there was a heavy force on my back. Someone was stamping on my back with their feet and putting a lot of pressure. Every time I tried to lift my head, someone would still put pressure on me with their foot. So, and I turned my head just to look, who is this person? I was trying to speak, but the words were not coming out. It was so strange. Every time I tried to look, it was so dark, I couldn't see anything. So I keep on trying till I felt really tired. So when I look forward ahead of me, I saw this nice big building, like a castle, white. I could see the windows, but no doors, like open windows, but with the doors, but not doors to open or close. No even windows to open and close. I could see just the space, the room for the window. But, and then from that, I saw a light coming. And this light was so powerful, so strong. Have you ever tried to look into the light, straight into the light, and till you started feeling that your eyes are hurting? Even when you stopped looking into the light straight, you looked away. It's like that light, you carry it in your eyes, is still there. Till after a few seconds, then the light will disappear. This light, looking forward, it was so powerful, so strong, so bright, but it was not hurting my eyes. So, and it was coming closer to me, coming closer to me. As is approaching, I saw a hand coming out of the light. The hand started doing this and calling me. Suddenly, the voice came out of it. The voice was saying, "Stand up and come and follow me." I felt like, you know, when you are very, very thirsty and then you have a nice cold glass of water and you feel refreshed. It was almost like that, but more than that. I felt so peaceful as I'm seeing the hand coming out of the light. I saw hope and the voice telling me, "Stand up and come and follow me." As the light is approaching, now I started seeing the full body coming out of that light. I saw the feet, and the light came into the area of the face, and the voice kept on repeating the same thing. The voice started saying, "You called me. I am here. Stand up and come and follow me." When the light came and closer to me, like 2 meters, I could see a man standing in front of me. But because I was laying down, I could not